Alright, welcome back YouTube. So today I thought we'd kind of go look back at our old tier list of what I thought all the legendaries were kind of, what their rankings would be um, before the expansion, but now after a week of the expansion I think it's probably safe to say that we could adjust this list and see where everything actually kind of fell into. So I'm going to go over our S tier first. So this is clearly like what I thought the more popular legendaries were going to be played, and that changed. There's a lot of stuff that has been played. The first one was Starlight Groove, Mr. Mukla, Symphony Ascent, and Jive Insect. Now this card, I haven't really even seen it played. Most of the Paladin classes are pretty aggro. It's the Pure Paladin, the Mech Paladin, the Bubble Paladin, and most of the time they don't even play this. This card is probably down in the niche tier now. They lost their carryall, and so like a lot of their control elements are kind of down. So I think it going down to C tier now is fair. I think Mr. Mukla, after seeing now that at the very beginning, like the first 2 or 3 days of the expansion, Big Beast Hunter was not a thing, but now that the meta's kind of starting to form and take shape of what it's going to really look like, I think it's safe to say Mr. Mukla is still S tier. It's very impactful when it hits down. If you get off a sunken or off of the harpoon gun, being able to drop it down on turn 4 is really insane. If you have that opportunity to do that. Of course, against the decks that have just immediate removal, it's not going to do a whole lot, but I still think it's very, very impactful. Cynthia Sins, I've seen this card in just about every Warlock deck. It's now added into the Imp Warlock. It's still in Control Warlock. You see it in the Thaddeus Warlock. I still think it's safe to say it is S tier. It might be okay to say that it moves down to A tier because some matchups you might not get the exact card or the exact movement that you want, and that could be a bit of a downside. So I think it's probably safe to say it's either A or S tier. I'll probably say A tier for it. Jive Insect, I've seen this in every single Shaman deck that I've played. It being in Big Warlock or Big Shaman is really impactful too, I think. I don't know, I still think it's a very good card. It's probably just an A tier now. I don't think it's up there with Mr. Mukla. I definitely think some of the other cards are going to be a little bit better as well, but maybe there isn't anything that is inherently S tier, but I think Mr. Mukla is still really solid. I think Jive Insect is going to be seen in every Shaman deck, so it could be S tier. And if you do get it early on and you're able to play it, or even if you discover it, it's going to be good. Next is Zoc Fogsnout, and this is good. Like the hero, so after the first week, we see that the hero power package kind of dropped down in usage. Tony Druid is a bit more seeing a lot more play, but it's still run Zox Fogsnout in that deck. But the biggest thing is, how impactful is that specific card in the meta? And I don't think it's A tier where I put it. I definitely think it's niche now. I don't think it's F tier. When you play it, it could be good. Sometimes you could drop down to 3, 20, 21. You could drop down to 10, 30. Like you could really make the stats absurd. But with the amount of removal that the top classes have, I don't think it's as impactful as we thought it was going to be. Stranglethorn Heart is really good with Mr. Mukla and just Big Beast Hunter, but does it define the deck? I don't think it does. I think a lot of people are either putting it into the ETC Band Manager. There's matchups where you don't need it. I don't think it's a main deck card anymore. I think it's probably B tier. I'm going to put it at the top of B tier right now until I go down here and cycle through and what I think is actually where the list matters. But I think being able to resurrect all of your big beasts that cost 5 or more, or 6 or more, whatever it is really good. And it having the option to be traded away, I think makes it worth. You could play it in the main deck. But I definitely think it is a B tier card. It's a very big survivability card for Big Beast Hunter. So B tier. Now Rin Orchestrator of Doom, I thought it was a pretty average card. I actually haven't seen it been played at all. I've been playing pretty consistently all week. I'm sitting in like Diamond 2 or Diamond 1 right now. I'm close to Legend rank, and I've only seen this card once. Whether or not that means it's consistent or good, I think the effect is really cool. But I definitely think it's now a niche tier card. You don't see it in the control matchups at all. You see Symphony of Sins over it now. So yeah, there's not a lot to say to it. There's not a lot of data that I've seen, and I don't think it's worth it. Now I am moving up the ETC Band Manager to A tier because the decks that use it are really happy that they have it. And I've had games where having this card in my deck and being able to pick between 3 cards that would help me win a matchup. Like if you're playing the Blood Death Knight and you have whatever card, if you have Theotar, you have a Mulgrain in there too if you don't main deck Mulgrain. Just be able to get a card that a specific tech card that can help you win a matchup is just so impactful. Of course, the only downside is maybe you don't have it when you need it, but most of the time you just keep it in your hand if you are up against a class where you're not 100% sure what the class is or what the deck is. I think ETC Band Manager is definitely A tier, and the decks that play it want to see it and want to have it in their deck. Now, Kingor, the Dancing King. I thought this card was going to be pretty solid, but as the data shows, Big Paladin isn't very impactful. It's too slow. It gets outclassed by any type of aggro to mid-range deck. It's definitely F tier, sadly, but yeah, I don't think there's much else to say to it. When it works, but the work it's not very consistent, so it just doesn't have a lot going for it. Hinata's 4 mana for the Overheal legendary or Overheal Priest legendary. I made a Overheal Undead Priest that did really well day 1, but I haven't tried it since, and I don't think it's going to be very consistent. I still think pure Undead is going to be better than the Undead Overheal version I made. Where I'd class it, I think when it works, like if you discover this card, I think it would be pretty solid, but since it doesn't have a tag for a typing, I don't think it's really going to be ever discovered. It's probably niche tier now, C tier. The next card, Bounce Around, featuring whatever the last word is. I can't see what it says on here. But Bounce Around, the 3 mana, return all friendly stuff. I think it's a pretty solid card for Rogue. But, does it define a deck? Does it, advance the game state? Sometimes it does work. I think there's other Rogue decks that just aren't playing it, and it's probably just low B tier anyhow too. It doesn't seem very, when you have very high value stuff on the board and you're able to bring it back and possibly want to get more value out of stuff, it feels really good. But with just right now, where the meta's at right now, a week after everything, I haven't seen the card being played too much. I haven't seen a Freebird OTK deck yet. I've only seen Bounce Around like maybe 2 or 3 times, and they only did it in the Secret Rogue deck, and they did it to get more secrets. And I was playing, Death Knight, I was playing Paladin. Most times the secrets didn't really affect me in a way that made it hard to beat them, The one Amalgam Band I still think is B tier. The decks that I've seen it played in has done quite a bit, being able to discover it and play it too. If you play a class that has 2 or 3 different type of minion types in it and you discover Amalgam, or the Amalgam Band, it just feels really good. And still getting 3 keywords is so impactful. I still think it's B tier. I don't think it's A tier, I don't think it's C tier, but it's an average card that feels good when you discover it. If your whole deck revolves around it, Shaman's been using quite a bit. I've seen Warrior use it. I still think it's pretty good. Cagehead, F tier. I haven't seen a single OTK deck with this. I haven't seen it used at all in Unholy. I've just seen the aggro version of it. I don't think it's going to be impactful. They might buff the card. Maybe there'll be more supporting stuff in the mini expansion that might make it a little bit better. Until it happens, it's F tier. It's not worth it at all. Photographer Fizzle, I think, is B tier for sure. I've seen this card in like every single control matchup. It's a good card, being able to take a snapshot of cards that you think are very high value. That's going to help you, win the game later down the road. It's very strong. I think it's B tier. I don't think it's meta defining either. I think it's B. It's just you're not gonna see some aggro decks. It's not gonna be seen in every deck. Compared to S tier, you're always gonna see this in Hunter. You're always gonna see this in Shaman. So, but Photographer Fizzle I think is very good. What is it? Going Down Swinging, the 5 mana Demon Hunter card it's F tier. I haven't seen this card played once. I haven't even found it good. Like I tried to put it in a deck and I never drew it. When I did draw it, it was already too late. It wasn't going to be impactful enough. I don't think it's very strong. DJ Mana Storm, I think it's still a pretty cool card. The idea of it. The deck that was trying to use the 6 mana 6/6 where you with the Death Rattle, or maybe it was Battle Cry, where like the very first card you play, turn cost 0, and then you play DJ Mana Storm, and then you play the 3 Power Blast or whatever it's called. That deck seems pretty cool, but it's not very consistent. It has like less than a 43% win rate. I definitely think this is a niche card. it's fun. Maybe it might get buffed, or maybe there'll be more supporting stuff to make this card a little bit more impactful in a mage deck. I definitely see the idea that they're doing with it, trying to bring back a version of the big spell mage, but all in a legendary card. I don't think it's very impactful. Let's see. MC Blingtron, I haven't seen it at all been played in Rogue. I thought it would be semi-decent in Groat Rogue. I've even seen Groat Rogue on the ladder. I don't think it's very that good, but I'll put it low C tier because I think it's niche. You might just play it. You could play it in probably like a Pirate Warrior, and just being able to have the weapons will be pretty solid. But I don't think it's F tier because just getting a weapon is still pretty good, and it costs 5. Maybe if they adjusted the stats, made it a 3/3/4, that'd be pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's absolutely terrible. But next is Tony, King of the Piracy. I think he's a B tier. There's so many decks using him, and Tony Druid is pretty consistent overall. You see it in Warrior. It has above a 50% win rate in Druid. I think it's good. The only downside is you have to pair it with other cards to make it work. But in most cases, in the control matchups, you're able to get the effect off, whether it is 100% accurate, kind of change stuff up. But Black Rock and Roll, I think, is an A tier card. I've seen this in like just about every Warrior deck now. Control Warrior, Big Warrior, Menagerie Warrior, Taunt Warrior, all of them have been using this card and doubling the stats, or not doubling stats, but giving them the buff of whatever their mana cost is, and playing cards that buff more and more is just so impactful, especially like with Control Warrior with the new jump kit, being able to just deal with the early game classes and Brawl, Shield Slam, all those really, and Bash too because that got buffed. All those cards and those really strong control elements have made Control Warrior and just Warrior as a class see a little bit more play than it did in the last season. But I definitely think this is an A tier card. I think this is going to be seen in just about every single Warrior deck, and it is being seen in every single Warrior deck. And this one card brought the win rate up of Warrior and the usage rate up, so I think it's definitely safe to say it's an A tier. You could probably argue it is maybe high B tier. I definitely think this is probably the order of how everything would be here. It might be A tier. For the Warrior class itself, I think it's A tier, but since it's not a neutral card, if it was a neutral card, it'd probably be played in Death Knight too. But yeah, I'll say it's B tier. It's safe to say. Yeah, we're not gonna even talk about this card. Like Rainbow Death Knights is a dumb idea of a class. I tried to play the class. It just got outclassed. Like it just seems like there's so much happening in one deck that it doesn't actually feel like you're making an impact at all. It's F tier. It's really bad. Dark Raven, 4 mana, 4/3. Yeah, I don't know. The Outcast Steam Hunter has a really high win rate right now, and then one of the cards got nerfed in it, and I don't know. It feels very niche when I'm playing it still. Like it's pretty easy to draw it, but if I don't already have a dominating board and I drop it down and all my rush guys get +1 attack after each one attacks, it works sometimes, and I don't think it's nearly as consistent as anything else here. And I feel like the class will just kind of fall out too. Inza's low C tier because the idea to it, being able to reduce cost to overload stuff. There might be like some type of mid-range or later in control shaman deck that'll come in the future, and Enzo will be a card that will be played in it. I'm sure of it. And yeah, I still think it's a niche card. I don't think it's absolutely F tier. Rhythm and Roots, I still think it's a C tier. I'm gonna drop all these down lower, and then I'll eventually rearrange it. But it's probably F tier. Like this is probably F tier. It's just because it doesn't immediately impact the board. Most of the time you're going to want to have to do something now, and there's just so much board removal. Like summing up 5 or however many 8/8s it is, it's just not impactful enough. They don't have any keywords. They're just normal 8/8s. Like there's not taunt, there's not rush, there's not wind fury, there's not charge, there's not lifesteal. There's no keyword to the actual 8/8s or even the 5/5s. It doesn't feel good. Let's see. Love Everlasting, I think, is A tier. In the matchups against like Control Priest that I played, or even the Thief Priest, having Love Everlasting and being able to make a 1-cost Shadow Revisions or whatever that card is for the 6/6 legendary that Priest has, just feels so oddly good, and Priest has so much generation that playing a spell each turn does not matter, and being able to reduce the cost of your spells allow you to do more things in one turn. I originally had it at C tier because I didn't know what Priest, like what angle Priest would go, if it's still going to be heavy aggro or if it's going to go heavy control. It lost its quest, so Quest Priest wasn't a thing. And so I don't know, I thought this would be pretty solid if the quest would still be around. I think it would probably be A or S tier if the quest was still around, just being able to, make stuff cheaper. You'll be able to possibly advance your quest a little bit faster. But in Control Priest, it's very solid. I particularly hate playing against Control Priest now because the games go for like 30, 40 minutes now, and it's a solid card for Priest, and I definitely think it's definitely worth A tier, or to be in A tier. Now, infant size, the maxitude, I put it F tier because, I mean, mages already have cards that do the same thing this thing does. I do think it's still F tier, but I think it's upper F tier because it will be played more over all these cards. I actually think it's probably C tier because it's going to be played over all of these cards here too. Like you'll still see it probably like this. See, these are going to be played more than that. Yeah. I've seen this card played more over DJ Mana Storm. I don't think it's C tier because it just doesn't define a deck. It's just a card that you play in there. But Mage already has cards that do that. So I think it's probably safe to say C tier. Now, Rockmaster Voon. So when I played my Menagerie Warrior, I didn't actually get this card, and I have yet to enchant it or open it from a pack. And I still think that's fine. I don't think it's too impactful. I really like whatever I said in my tier list video about if it had a battle cry of like reloading your hand with all the other different minion types you played. I think that would make this card so good. This card would shoot up to S tier, maybe A tier. But having a reload card in an aggro deck is really good. The only downside is you have to play it when you have stuff in your hand, and so if you already have 5 or 6 cards in your hand and just playing it more, it's just pretty mediocre. But Menagerie Warrior was pretty solid, I think. I don't think it's F tier because it's seen more play than all these cards right here. Whether or not it's probably like right here. I've seen it more than DJ Mana Storm when I'm climbing the ladder, and I think this is probably a safe bet to say. Probably move this down like this. I've seen Fizzle more than Black Rock and Roll. Tony's very situational too, but it's good. Yeah. So just kind of recap what I think all the tiers are. S tier is played consistently amongst like all decks for that class, or at the neutral card, and it's in every class. It has immediate impact and it feels good when you play the card. You're not regretting the plays. A tier is consistent and seen in most classes or decks. B tier is consistent, but it's not seen very often. C is niche tier, and can be good, but it's not meta defining. F tier is just F tier. You can enchant it, you can disenchant it. It's not really going to affect any specific way that it's not going to advance your ranking very well. Like it's just not good. But yeah, so those are my what I believe the tiers mean for this. And I definitely think this is probably a safe, or generally a good tier list for how everything is. And I think most people would agree with it. Mr. Mukla, Jive Insect are pretty popular, and in the Hunter and the Shaman class. I think you see it in almost every deck when you play it. When you play that card, you feel immediate impact. It feels good. You don't ever feel bad about playing it. Symphony of Sins. I think everyone's been enjoying playing this card. All the mech paladin, mech mages, they've been enjoying Posic, and it's just been thrown in there in every deck. Control decks are eating up these cards. Same thing with Fizzle, but it doesn't, it's not inherently as impactful as I'd say these cards are. Black Rock and Roll has allowed Warrior to see more usage and a higher win rate, and it's been able to, make some pretty cool gameplay. Same thing with Tony. Stranglethorn Heart is just an expensive card, so I think it's definitely B tier. The One Amalgam Band has seen quite a bit of play, and since it has the all tag, being able to discover it feels really good. Yeah, so I think this is probably a safe one. We could probably go through here and fix around. Yeah, no, I still think these might see more play. No. I'll leave it as is with that. F tier. Yeah, we'll probably do something like this. Yeah, so this is my final tier list week after the the first or the new expansion. So let me know what you guys think about this new updated tier list, and if you think this is how everything kind of fell through, and if you think this is what it's going to be. I'll probably make another updated tier list a month or two after, the meta's shifted, or maybe after the new mini expansion comes out. But let me know what you guys think of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.